Rich man leaves wife. 15 years later, he's paralyzed with shock seeing her at the mall with a young man who looks just like him. Nathan Blackwell strode through the bustling shopping mall, his confident steps echoing his success. At 45, he was at the top of his game, a real estate tycoon about to close the biggest deal of his career. His phone pressed to his ear. He negotiated the final details of a multi-million-dollar contract. Yes, Mr. Johnson, I assure you the property values will skyrocket once we begin development, Nathan said, his voice smooth as silk. You're making the right choice investing with Blackwell Enterprises. As he turned a corner, his eyes caught sight of a familiar face that made his heart stop. Lily, his ex-wife, stood near a fountain, smiling at a teenage boy. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. The boy was the spitting image of him at that age. Mr. Blackwell, are you there? Mr. Johnson's voice crackled through the phone. Nathan couldn't speak. His mind raced back 15 years, to the day he walked out on Lily. She had just told him she was pregnant, and he, focused solely on his career, had left without a second thought. Mr. Blackwell? The voice grew impatient. Nathan snapped back to reality, but his concentration was shattered. Yes, sorry. As I was saying, the property values. He fumbled through the rest of the call, his eyes never leaving Lily and the boy. In his distraction, he failed to notice a crucial detail in the contract terms. So, we're agreed on the 15% stake? Mr. Johnson asked. Yes, of course, Nathan replied automatically, not realizing he had just agreed to give away a much larger portion of the profits than intended. Excellent. I'll have my lawyers draw up the papers immediately. The call ended, and Nathan stood frozen in place. He had just made a catastrophic mistake that could cost his company millions. But at that moment, all he could think about was the son he never knew. Lily and the boy were leaving now. Nathan found himself following at a distance, his heart pounding. He watched as they laughed together, the easy affection between them painfully clear. His phone buzzed incessantly. No doubt his team was trying to reach him about the deal, but Nathan couldn't bring himself to answer. His perfectly constructed world was crumbling around him. As Lily and the boy disappeared into the crowd, Nathan slumped onto a nearby bench. The weight of his past choices crashed down on him. He had abandoned his wife and unborn child for the pursuit of wealth and power. And now, seeing them happy without him, he felt a hollowness he had never experienced before. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. Nathan, what the hell happened? It was Marcus, his business partner. Johnson's lawyers just sent over the contract. Did you really agree to a 15% stake? Nathan's stomach dropped. The full impact of his distraction hit him. There's been a mistake. We need to renegotiate. Renegotiate? Nathan, it's too late. Johnson's already signed. What's going on with you? Nathan couldn't find the words to explain. How could he tell Marcus that he had just seen the family he abandoned and it had shaken him to his core? I'll fix this, Nathan said, his voice hollow. I'll figure something out. He ended the call and sat there, his mind reeling. In the span of a few minutes, his professional and personal lives had been turned upside down. The empire he had built was suddenly on shaky ground, all because of a chance encounter with his past. As the mall bustled around him, Nathan made a decision. He needed to know more about Lily and the boy. He needed to understand what he had given up all those years ago. Pulling out his phone once more, he dialed a number he hadn't used in years. John? It's Nathan Blackwell. I need your services again. There's someone I need you to find information on. As he gave the details to his old private investigator, Nathan felt a mix of anticipation and dread. He was about to uncover the life he could have had, and he wasn't sure if he was ready for what he might discover. Nathan sat in his office, staring at the manila folder on his desk. John, his private investigator, had just delivered the results of his investigation into Lily and Jack's lives. With a deep breath, Nathan opened the folder and began to read. The first few pages detailed Lily's struggle after Nathan left. She had lost her job, unable to work due to complications with her pregnancy. For months, she had lived on savings and the kindness of friends. Nathan's stomach churned with guilt as he read about Lily's desperate attempts to make ends meet. Then came the part about Jack's birth. Nathan's eyes widened as he read that Lily had considered giving the baby up for adoption. She had even gone as far as meeting with an adoption agency. The thought of his son being raised by strangers made Nathan's heart race. What changed her mind? Nathan muttered, flipping through the pages. The answer came in the form of a woman named Martha. According to the report, Martha had found Lily crying on a park bench just days before she was due to sign the adoption papers. Martha had taken Lily in, offering her a place to stay and helping her care for newborn Jack. Nathan leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed by the information. He had always assumed Lily would be fine without him. She was strong, capable, but the reality of her struggles hit him hard. As he continued reading, Nathan learned about the shelter Martha and Lily had started together. It was a place for single mothers who had nowhere else to turn. The shelter had helped dozens of women over the years, providing them with support, job training, and a safe place to live. She turned her pain into something good, Nathan said to himself, a mix of admiration and shame washing over him. But it was the last few pages of the report that truly shook Nathan. John had dug into Nathan's own past, trying to find any connection to Lily or Jack. Instead, he had uncovered something startling about Nathan's mother. Nathan had always believed his mother died when he was young. His father had told him she passed away in a car accident, but according to John's findings, there was no record of such an accident. In fact, there were hints that Nathan's mother might still be alive. "This can't be right," Nathan muttered, his hands shaking as he reread the information. Could his father have lied to him all these years? And if so, why? The revelation left Nathan reeling. He had built his life on the belief that he was alone in the world, that success and money were all that mattered. But now, everything he thought he knew was being called into question. As the weight of these discoveries settled on him, Nathan felt an overwhelming need to do something, anything, to make amends. He couldn't change the past, but perhaps he could help Lily and Jack now. Without allowing himself to overthink it, Nathan picked up his phone and called his accountant. "I need you to set up an anonymous donation," he said, "to a shelter for single mothers." After arranging the details, Nathan sat back, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside him. He felt guilty for the hardships Lily had faced, amazed at her resilience, and confused about his own past. But beneath it all was a growing sense of determination. He needed to know more, to understand the life he had walked away from and the secrets that had been kept from him. As he stared out his office window at the city skyline, Nathan made a decision. He would find a way to get closer to Lily and Jack, to see for himself the life they had built. And he would uncover the truth about his mother, no matter where it led him. Little did Nathan know, his anonymous donation was about to set off a chain of events that would bring all of these secrets to light. Across town, Lily received a call from the shelter's accountant, informing her of a substantial anonymous donation. Her initial joy quickly turned to suspicion. Who would donate such a large sum without wanting recognition? And why now, after all these years of struggling to keep the shelter afloat? Lily's instincts, honed by years of protecting herself and Jack, kicked in. She decided to look into this mysterious benefactor, unaware that her investigation would lead her straight back to the man who had walked out on her 15 years ago. As Nathan and Lily unknowingly set out on a collision course with their past, the buried secrets of both their lives were about to resurface, changing everything they thought they knew about themselves and each other. Nathan paced his office, phone in hand. He had just confirmed the anonymous donation to Lily's shelter. A mix of emotions churned inside him: pride at helping the shelter, shame for his past actions, and anxiety about how close this brought him to his old life. "It's done, sir," his accountant said. "The donation is untraceable." "Good," Nathan replied, his voice tight. "Keep me updated on any news about the shelter." Across town, Lily sat at her desk in the shelter, staring at the donation notice. The amount was staggering, enough to keep the shelter running for years. But something didn't feel right. "Sarah," Lily called to her assistant, "can you look into this donation? Find out everything you can about where it came from." Sarah nodded, sensing Lily's unease. "Of course. Is everything okay?" Lily forced a smile. "Just being cautious. This could be a real lifesaver for us, but you want to make sure there are no strings attached." Sarah finished. "Exactly." As Lily dove into her investigation, she couldn't shake the feeling that this donation was somehow connected to her past. The timing, the amount, it all seemed too coincidental. Meanwhile, Jack sat in his room, laptop open, scrolling through the Blackwell Enterprises website. He had always been curious about his father, but Lily's evasive answers only fueled his determination to uncover the truth. His eyes landed on the internship program advertisement. A plan began to form in his mind. If he could get inside the company, maybe he could find some answers. Jack called out to Lily, trying to keep his voice casual. "Hey, Mom. I think I found a summer internship I want to apply for." Lily appeared in the doorway. "That's great, honey. Where is it?" Jack hesitated for a split second. "Blackwell Enterprises. It's a big company. Could be a great opportunity." Lily's face paled slightly, but she quickly composed herself. "Sounds interesting. Just be sure to weigh all your options, okay?" As Lily left the room, Jack couldn't help but notice her reaction. It only confirmed his suspicions that there was more to the story of his father than she let on. Back at Blackwell Enterprises, Nathan found himself constantly checking for updates on the shelter. He told himself it was just to ensure the donation was put to good use. But deep down, he knew he was looking for any information about Lily and Jack. His assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Blackwell, the applications for the summer internship program are ready for review." Nathan nodded, grateful for the distraction. "Thank you. Bring them in." As he began to flip through the applications, a familiar name caught his eye. Jack Thompson. It couldn't be a coincidence. Nathan's heart raced as he read through Jack's application. The boy was bright, ambitious. Everything Nathan would have hoped for in a son. Without allowing himself to overthink it, Nathan made a decision. "Lisa," he called to his assistant. "Make sure this Jack Thompson is on the shortlist for interviews." As Nathan, Lily, and Jack all set their plans in motion, none of them realized how their lives were about to collide. Lily spent her evenings digging into the donation, her gratitude for the financial lifeline warring with her instinct that something wasn't right. The shelter had been on the brink of closing due to lack of funds, and this donation had saved it. But at what cost? She confided in Sarah. "I can't shake the feeling that this money is somehow connected to Jack's father." "But that's impossible, right? He walked out of our lives 15 years ago." Sarah squeezed Lily's hand. "Maybe it's time to tell Jack the whole truth about his father. He's old enough now." Lily shook her head. "I can't. There's so much he doesn't know, so much I've kept from him to protect him." As Lily grappled with her secret, Jack focused on preparing for his interview at Blackwell Enterprises. He practiced answers to potential questions, researched the company thoroughly, and even bought a new shirt for the occasion. The day of the interview arrived. Jack stood in front of Blackwell Enterprises, his heart pounding. This was it, his chance to uncover the truth about his father. Inside, Nathan waited nervously in his office. He had insisted on conducting Jack's interview personally, much to the surprise of his HR department. As Jack was shown into the office, Nathan's breath caught in his throat. Seeing the boy up close, the resemblance was undeniable. It took all of Nathan's self-control to maintain his professional demeanor. "Welcome, Jack," Nathan said, extending his hand. "Shall we begin?" And with that, the lives of Nathan, Lily, and Jack became irrevocably intertwined, each of them unaware of the secrets and revelations that lay ahead. Jack sat across from Nathan, his nerves barely contained as he answered questions about his qualifications and aspirations. To his surprise, the interview felt more like a conversation than an interrogation. "Your analytical skills are impressive," Nathan remarked, reviewing Jack's resume. "Tell me, what draws you to real estate development?" Jack leaned forward, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "I'm fascinated by the way cities grow and change. I want to be part of shaping that future, creating spaces that improve people's lives." Nathan couldn't help but smile, hearing an echo of his own youthful ambition in Jack's words. "Well, Jack, I think you'd be a great fit for our team. When can you start?" As Jack left the office, Nathan felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He was eager to get to know his son, but the fear of discovery loomed large. Over the next few weeks, Nathan took Jack under his wing, showing him the ropes of the business. He was constantly amazed by how quickly Jack grasped complex concepts, often seeing solutions that others missed. One afternoon, as they pored over plans for a new development, Nathan felt a surge of pride. "You've got a real talent for this, Jack. Reminds me of myself at your age." Jack looked up, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. "Thanks, Mr. Blackwell. That means a lot coming from you." As they worked closely together, both Jack and Nathan found themselves grappling with unexpected emotions. Jack, who had grown up resenting the father who abandoned him, was surprised to find himself admiring Nathan. The man was brilliant, driven, and surprisingly kind. Nathan, for his part, saw more of himself in Jack with each passing day. It wasn't just their shared interests or similar mannerisms. There was a spark in Jack, a determination that Nathan recognized all too well. But as Jack delved deeper into the company's operations, he began to notice discrepancies. Numbers that didn't quite add up, deals that seemed too good to be true. His curiosity piqued. He started digging. Late one night, while most of the office had gone home, Jack stumbled upon a file that made his blood run cold. It detailed a series of transactions that reeked of money laundering and fraud. "This can't be right," Jack muttered, his mind racing. Could Nathan be involved in something illegal? Meanwhile, Nathan was having his own revelations. During a casual conversation about family, Jack mentioned his mother's birthday. June 15th. Jack said, "We always celebrate by watching the sunset at her favorite park." Nathan froze, memories flooding back. June 15th, the day he had walked out on Lily. The coincidence was too much to ignore. As the days passed, both Jack and Nathan found themselves on the verge of discovery multiple times. A shared laugh that sounded eerily similar, a gesture they both made when deep in thought, comments about their pasts that almost lined up. One afternoon, Nathan overheard Jack on the phone with Lily. "Don't worry, Mom," Jack was saying. "I'm being careful. I haven't forgotten why I'm here." Nathan's heart raced. What did Jack mean by that? Was he here for more than just an internship? Before Nathan could ponder this further, Marcus, his business partner, burst into the office. "Nathan, we need to talk," Marcus said, his voice low and urgent. "It's about the new intern, Jack." Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. "What about him?" Marcus glanced around, making sure they were alone. "There's something off about him. He's been asking too many questions, poking around in areas he shouldn't." "He's just eager to learn," Nathan defended, trying to keep his voice steady. "No, it's more than that," Marcus insisted. "I think he might be trouble. We need to keep a closer eye on him." As Marcus left, Nathan slumped in his chair, the weight of his secrets pressing down on him. He had wanted to get close to Jack, to make amends for the past. But now, that closeness threatened to unravel everything. Across the office, Jack sat at his desk, staring at the incriminating documents he'd discovered. He was torn between his growing respect for Nathan and his suspicion that the man might be involved in serious crimes. Both father and son were now walking a tightrope, each step bringing them closer to a truth that could shatter their worlds. And neither of them realized that Marcus, driven by his own fears and suspicions, was about to start digging into Jack's background, a search that could expose all of their secrets. As the day ended, Nathan watched Jack leave the office, a mix of love and fear churning in his gut. He knew he was running out of time. Soon he would have to make a choice: protect his empire or embrace the son he never knew he wanted. Nathan sat in his office late one night, poring over financial reports. Something didn't add up. The more he dug, the more irregularities he found. His heart sank as he realized the extent of the problem. "This can't be right," he muttered, running his hands through his hair. Just then, Marcus walked in, a smug smile on his face. "Working late again, Nathan? You should learn to delegate more." Nathan looked up, his expression grim. "Marcus, we need to talk. I found some discrepancies in our accounts." Marcus's smile faded. "What kind of discrepancies?" "The kind that could land us in prison," Nathan said bluntly. "Care to explain?" Marcus's demeanor changed instantly. "Now Nathan, let's not be hasty. Business is complicated, you know that." "Complicated is one thing, illegal is another," Nathan shot back. "I want answers now." As their voices rose, neither noticed Jack passing by the office. Hearing the heated exchange, he paused to listen. Inside, Marcus's tone turned threatening. "You really want to go down this road, Nathan? Remember, your hands aren't exactly clean either. That deal in Chicago? The zoning adjustments in Miami? I've got dirt on you that goes back years." Nathan felt the blood drain from his face. He had always justified those actions as necessary evils, but hearing them laid out so bluntly made him realize how far he had strayed from his principles. "You wouldn't," Nathan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Try me," Marcus sneered. "Face it, Nathan. We're in this together, whether you like it or not." Outside, Jack's eyes widened. He had suspected corruption, but hearing it confirmed was still a shock. And the mention of Nathan's involvement, it complicated everything. As Marcus left, Nathan slumped in his chair, the weight of his choices crushing him. He had built this company from nothing, poured his life into it. The thought of losing it all was unbearable. But could he live with himself if he turned a blind eye to this level of corruption? Over the next few days, Nathan dug deeper into the company's dealings. What he found shocked him to his core. The corruption wasn't isolated, it had infected every level of the organization. Bribes, kickbacks, money laundering, it was all there, hidden beneath a veneer of legitimate business. Worse still, Nathan discovered Marcus's connections to high-ranking politicians. These weren't just local officials. These were people with real power, people who could make problems disappear or create them. As Nathan grappled with this knowledge, he noticed a change in Jack's behavior. The boy seemed more reserved, watching Nathan with a mix of curiosity and wariness. Had he overheard something? The thought filled Nathan with dread. One afternoon, Jack approached Nathan's office, hesitation clear in his steps. "Mr. Blackwell, can I ask you something?" Nathan steeled himself. "Of course, Jack. What's on your mind?" Jack took a deep breath. "I've been working on some projections, and I've noticed some inconsistencies. I was wondering if you could explain them to me." Nathan felt a surge of pride at Jack's perceptiveness, quickly followed by fear. How much had he figured out? "Business can be complex, Jack," Nathan said carefully. "Sometimes things aren't as straightforward as they seem in textbooks." Jack nodded, but Nathan could see the doubt in his eyes. "I understand. It's just, some of these numbers don't make sense unless..." "Unless what?" Nathan prompted, his heart racing. Jack hesitated. "Unless there's something else going on, something not entirely legal." The accusation hung in the air between them. Nathan saw a reflection of his younger self in Jack's determined gaze. The idealism, the hunger for truth. It made what he had to do next all the harder. "Jack," Nathan said, his voice firm, "there are aspects of this business that are complicated. I know you want answers, but trust me when I say it's better not to dig too deep. Focus on your work, learn what you can, but leave the big picture stuff to us. Okay?" Jack nodded slowly, but Nathan could see he wasn't convinced. As Jack left the office, Nathan felt a mix of relief and shame. He had protected the company, but at what cost to his relationship with Jack? That night, as Nathan sat alone in his office, he made a decision. He couldn't ignore what he had discovered. He needed to know everything, no matter the risk. With shaking hands, he picked up his phone and dialed a number he hoped he'd never have to use. "John? It's Nathan. I need your help again. This time, I need you to investigate my own company. And John, be careful. This goes deeper than I ever imagined." As he hung up, Nathan knew he was stepping onto a dangerous path. But with Jack's questioning gaze fresh in his mind, he knew he had no choice. It was time to face the truth, whatever the cost. Nathan adjusted his baseball cap and sunglasses as he approached the shelter. His heart raced as he pushed open the door, stepping into the world Lily had built without him. The reception area was bustling with activity. Women chatted in small groups, while children played in a corner. Nathan's eyes scanned the room, searching for a familiar face. "Can I help you?" a voice asked. Nathan turned and froze. The woman standing before him was older, her hair grayer, but he'd recognize those eyes anywhere. "Mom?" he whispered before he could stop himself. Martha's eyes widened in shock. "Nathan, is that you?" Before either could say more, Nathan grabbed Martha's arm and led her to a quiet corner. "What are you doing here? I thought you were dead," he hissed. Martha's face crumpled. "I'm so sorry, Nathan. I never wanted to leave you, but I had no choice." As Martha began to explain, Nathan's world tilted on its axis. She told him of the abuse she'd suffered at the hands of his father, how she'd feared for her life. Faking her death had been the only way she could escape. "But why didn't you take me with you?" Nathan asked, his voice breaking. "I wanted to," Martha said, tears in her eyes. "But your father threatened to kill you if I ever tried to leave with you. I thought you'd be safer if I was gone." Nathan's mind reeled. The father he'd idolized, the man whose approval he'd spent his life seeking, had been a monster all along. As they talked, neither noticed Lily entering the shelter. She paused, her eyes narrowing as she spotted Nathan. There was something familiar about him, but she couldn't quite place it. Meanwhile, across town, Jack sat at his desk in Blackwell Enterprises, piecing together a puzzle. He'd been digging into the company's history, and something wasn't adding up. The timelines, the coincidences. It all pointed to a shocking possibility. Could Nathan Blackwell be his father? Back at the shelter, Nathan and Martha's conversation was cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps. Nathan quickly pulled his cap lower, turning away as Lily walked past. "Martha, do you have a moment?" Lily asked. "I wanted to discuss the donation again." Martha nodded, giving Nathan a quick, meaningful glance before following Lily. Nathan slipped out of the shelter, his mind in turmoil. He'd come looking for answers about Lily and Jack, but instead, he'd unearthed a family secret that shook him to his core. Later that evening, Lily sat in her office, staring at a photo of Jack as a baby. The guilt she'd carried for years weighed heavily on her. She'd never told Jack how close she'd come to giving him up for adoption. The fear, the desperation of those early days, it was a part of their history she'd kept hidden. As she pondered whether it was time to finally tell Jack the truth, her computer pinged with a new email. It was from her investigator, with information about the mysterious donation. Lily's eyes widened as she read the report. The money trail led back to a shell company, and beyond that, to Blackwell Enterprises. Her heart raced. Could it be? After all these years? Across town in his lavish penthouse, Marcus poured himself a drink, a satisfied smirk on his face. He'd finally connected the dots between Nathan, Lily, and Jack. This was the leverage he needed. "Oh, Nathan," he chuckled to himself, "you've been a very bad boy." As the night deepened, 4 people lay awake, each grappling with their own demons. Nathan, reeling from the revelation about his parents. Martha, torn between guilt over her past and hope for reconciliation. Lily, on the brink of uncovering a truth that could change everything. And Jack, suspecting a connection to Nathan that both thrilled and terrified him. The secrets of the past were surfacing, threatening to sweep away the carefully constructed lives they'd all built. And as dawn approached, bringing with it the promise of a new day, none of them realized just how drastically their worlds were about to collide. Nathan tossed and turned in his bed, his mother's words echoing in his mind. The abuse, the threats, the years of separation, it all painted a picture of a family far different from the one he thought he knew. He realized with a start that his own behavior, his ruthless pursuit of success at any cost, mirrored his father's toxic patterns. "I have to break this cycle," he murmured to himself. But could he? With the weight of his company's corruption pressing down on him and the constant fear of losing everything he'd built, could he find the strength to change? As sleep finally claimed him, Nathan's last conscious thought was of Jack. He had a chance to be a better father than his own had been. But first, he had to find a way to tell the truth. The morning sun barely peeked through the blinds of Nathan's office when Jack burst in, his face a mix of anger and determination. "We need to talk," Jack said, his voice trembling slightly, "about the company's practices." Nathan felt his stomach drop. He'd been dreading this moment. "Jack, no," Jack interrupted. "I've seen the documents, the fake accounts, the bribes. How could you be involved in this?" Nathan's mind raced. He could lie, make excuses, but looking at Jack, at his son, he knew it was time for the truth. "You're right," Nathan said quietly. "Things have gotten out of hand. I'm trying to fix it, Jack. I swear." Jack's eyes widened, not expecting this admission. "Fix it? How? By covering it up?" Before Nathan could respond, his phone buzzed. It was Lily. His heart raced as he answered. "Nathan? It's Lily. We need to talk about the donation to the shelter." Nathan felt the walls closing in. "Lily, I can explain." "So it was you?" Lily said, her voice a mix of shock and anger. "Why now, after all these years?" As Nathan struggled to find words, Marcus barged into the office. Seeing Jack, he smirked. "Well, isn't this cozy? Father and son having a chat?" Jack's head snapped towards Nathan, his face pale. "Father?" The room fell silent, the weight of secrets finally crashing down. Nathan stood, his hands shaking. "Marcus, that's enough." Marcus laughed coldly. "Oh, it's far from enough. I know everything, Nathan. About Lily, about Jack, about your mother. One word from me and it all comes crashing down." Nathan felt a surge of anger. "What do you want, Marcus?" "Simple. You take the fall for the company's creative accounting and I walk away clean. Otherwise, I expose everything." Jack looked between Nathan and Marcus, his world spinning. "You're blackmailing him, and you're considering it?" he asked Nathan incredulously. Nathan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his choices crushing him. When he opened them, he saw not just Jack, but the reflection of the man he'd become. A man his son despised. "No," Nathan said firmly. "No more lies, no more cover-ups." Marcus's smirk faded. "You're bluffing." "I'm not," Nathan replied. "It's over, Marcus. I'm coming clean about everything." Marcus's face contorted with rage. "You'll regret this," he spat, storming out of the office. In the silence that followed, Jack stared at Nathan. "Is it true? Are you really my father?" Nathan nodded, his throat tight. "Yes, I'm so sorry, Jack, for everything." Jack stood, his emotions warring across his face. Without a word, he left the office. Nathan slumped in his chair, feeling like his world was crumbling. His phone buzzed again. "Lily." "Nathan? Are you there? We need to finish this conversation." Nathan took a deep breath. "Lily, there's a lot I need to tell you." Can we meet? Across town, Lily hung up the phone, her mind reeling. Nathan was the mysterious donor. He was back in their lives. What did it mean for her? For Jack? As the day progressed, tensions rose. Jack avoided Nathan at work, his mind a turmoil of questions and resentment. Lily prepared for her meeting with Nathan, a mix of anger and long-buried feelings swirling inside her. Marcus, meanwhile, paced his office, plotting his next move. He wouldn't go down without a fight. As evening approached, Nathan made a decision. He would confess everything: the company's corruption, his past with Lily, his relationship to Jack, at the upcoming gala for the shelter. It was time to face the consequences of his actions. He picked up his phone one last time. "Martha, it's Nathan. I need your help." The night before the gala arrived, finding each character on edge. Nathan prepared his confession, knowing it could cost him everything. Jack wrestled with the revelation about his father, torn between curiosity and anger. Lily steeled herself for a confrontation years in the making, and Marcus, his desperation growing, set in motion a plan that threatened to destroy them all. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the city, the stage was set for a night that would change everything. Secrets would be revealed, lies exposed, and relationships forever altered. The gala loomed, a ticking time bomb of truth, ready to explode. The day of the gala arrived, tension thick in the air. Nathan sat at his desk, pen in hand, struggling to find the right words for his confession. He'd spent his life building walls, and now he had to tear them all down. "I've made mistakes," he wrote, then crossed it out. Too simple. How could he explain years of deception and corruption? Across town, Marcus hunched over his computer, a sinister smile on his face. He'd spent the night digging, and what he'd found was dynamite. Not only did he have dirt on Nathan, but he'd uncovered something about Lily too. "Oh, this is too perfect," he muttered, printing out documents detailing discrepancies in the shelter's finances. It wasn't much, but twisted the right way, it could look like fraud. Meanwhile, Lily paced her living room, debating whether to attend the gala. The invitation from Nathan sat on the coffee table, a silent reminder of the past she'd tried to forget. "Mom?" Jack's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Are we going to this thing?" Lily turned to her son, seeing the conflict in his eyes. "I don't know, honey. What do you think?" Jack shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "I mean, it's for the shelter, right? We should go. It's not about him." But they both knew it was. The unspoken name hung between them. Across the city, Martha stood in front of her mirror, practicing what she'd say. After years of hiding, she was finally going to reveal herself to the world. "I'm Martha Blackwell," she said to her reflection. "I'm Nathan's mother." The words felt strange on her tongue, but right. As the day wore on, Nathan found himself calming. The decision to come clean, though terrifying, brought a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. Whatever happened tonight, at least he'd be free of the lies. His phone buzzed with a message from John, his investigator. "Found something about Lily you should know," it read, followed by a detailed report. Nathan's eyes widened as he read. Lily had almost given Jack up for adoption. The revelation hit him hard. He'd judged her for so long, never knowing how close she'd come to making the same choice he had. In his office, Marcus was putting the finishing touches on his plan. He'd released the information about Lily's fraud right after Nathan's confession. It would destroy them both in one fell swoop. As evening approached, Jack stood in front of his closet, staring at his best suit. Part of him wanted to skip the gala, to avoid facing Nathan. But another part, a part he was afraid to acknowledge, was curious. What would Nathan say? What secrets would come to light? Lily knocked on his door. "Jack, we should leave soon if we're going." Jack took a deep breath. "Yeah, Mom, I'll be ready in a minute." Lily nodded, her own heart racing. She had no idea what Nathan was planning, but she knew tonight would change everything. At the shelter, Martha helped with last-minute preparations, her excitement barely contained. Tonight, She'd reunite with her son publicly. She'd have a chance to explain, to make amends. As the sun began to set, Nathan stood in his office, looking out over the city. He thought about all the choices that had led him to this moment. The lies, the betrayals, the lost years with his son. Tonight, he'd face the consequences of those choices. His phone buzzed one last time. It was Marcus. "Last chance, Nathan. Back out now, or I release everything." Nathan deleted the message without responding. There was no going back now. As darkness fell, cars began pulling up to the gala venue. Nathan arrived first, straightening his tie as he stepped out of his car. Lily and Jack were next, both looking nervous but determined. Marcus slipped in through a side entrance, a folder tucked under his arm containing all his ammunition. And finally, Martha arrived, taking a deep breath before entering the building where her family's fate would be decided. The gala was in full swing, music and chatter filling the air. But beneath the festive atmosphere, tensions simmered. Nathan, Lily, Jack, Martha, and Marcus moved through the crowd, each carrying their own secrets and agendas. As Nathan stepped up to the podium, preparing to deliver his speech, he caught Lily's eye across the room. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Everything they'd been through, everything they'd hidden, had led to this moment. Nathan cleared his throat, tapping the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. I have something important to share with you all tonight." And with those words, the calm shattered. The storm of truth was about to break, and nothing would ever be the same again. Nathan stood at the podium, his heart pounding. The room fell silent as he began to speak. "For years, I've hidden behind lies and deceit. Tonight, I'm here to tell the truth." As Nathan started his confession, detailing the corruption within his company, Marcus slipped through the crowd, a smirk on his face. He approached Lily, who was standing near the back of the room. "Mrs. Thompson," Marcus whispered, "I think you'll find this interesting." He handed her a folder. Lily's eyes widened as she scanned the contents. "This is impossible," she muttered. Meanwhile, Jack watched his father with a mix of anger and confusion. As Nathan's words sank in, Jack felt his world shifting. The man he'd come to admire over the past weeks was admitting to crimes Jack could hardly fathom. Unable to contain himself, Jack stepped forward. "How could you?" he shouted, drawing all eyes to him. Nathan paused, his gaze locking with Jack's. "Jack, You're a fraud," Jack continued. "You pretended to be this great mentor, but you're just a criminal." The crowd gasped. Whispers rippled through the room. "Is that his son? I didn't know Blackwell had a child." Lily rushed to Jack's side, trying to calm him. But as she reached him, she found herself face to face with Nathan for the first time in years. "You," she said, her voice trembling. "You were the mysterious donor." "Why?" Nathan stepped down from the podium, his confession forgotten in the face of this confrontation. "Lily, I can explain." "Explain what?" Lily cut him off. "How you abandoned us. How you suddenly decided to play the hero." As the three of them stood in a tense triangle, Marcus saw his opportunity slipping away. He grabbed the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, while we're all being honest, let me share some truths about our dear Lily and her shelter." Before he could continue, Martha pushed through the crowd. "That's enough," she shouted. "I won't let you destroy this family any further." The room fell silent once more. "Who are you?" someone asked. Martha took a deep breath. "I'm Martha Blackwell, Nathan's mother." Gasps echoed through the hall. Nathan stared at his mother in shock. He'd known she was alive, but seeing her here now was overwhelming. "Mom?" he whispered. As Martha began to explain her past, the abuse she'd suffered, and why she'd disappeared, the crowd listened in stunned silence. Nathan felt years of anger and resentment melting away, replaced by understanding and a deep sadness. Lily and Jack exchanged glances, their own frustrations momentarily forgotten in the face of this revelation. Marcus, seeing his plan unraveling, made one last desperate attempt. "This is all very touching," he sneered. but it doesn't change the fact that Lily here has been embezzling from the shelter." Lily gasped. "That's a lie, is it?" Marcus waved the folder. "I have proof right here." Nathan, snapping out of his shock, stepped forward. "No, you don't, Marcus. Those documents are fake, and you know it." Marcus's face paled. "How did you?" "I've known about your schemes for weeks," Nathan said. "I was just too cowardly to stop you. Until now." As Marcus sputtered, trying to regain control, Jack looked at his father with new eyes. Maybe there was more to Nathan than he'd thought. Lily, still reeling from the revelations, turned to Nathan. "Why didn't you tell me about the donation, about everything?" Nathan met her gaze. "I was ashamed, Lily, of what I'd done, of who I'd become. I thought I could make amends without facing you. I was wrong." As the truth settled over the room, Nathan made a decision. He turned back to the crowd. "I've made terrible mistakes. I've hurt people I love. I've broken laws, and I'm ready to face the consequences." He looked at Lily and Jack, then at his mother. "But first, I need to make things right." Nathan pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "This is Nathan Blackwell. I'd like to turn myself in for corporate fraud and corruption." The room erupted in chaos. Lily grabbed Nathan's arm. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done years ago," Nathan replied, "taking responsibility for my actions." As security arrived to escort Nathan out, he looked at his family one last time. "I'm sorry for everything. I hope someday you can forgive me." As Nathan was led away, Lily, Jack, and Martha stood in shocked silence. The gala had become a turning point none of them had expected. And as the night drew to a close, they all knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Nathan stood in the courtroom, his shoulders straight despite the weight of his actions. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady, "I'm here to confess to years of corporate fraud, bribery, and corruption." The courtroom fell silent as Nathan detailed his crimes. He spoke of falsified records, illegal deals, and the web of lies he'd spun. With each admission, he felt a strange mix of relief and dread. "I take full responsibility for these actions," Nathan concluded. "No one else should suffer from my mistakes." The judge's gavel fell and the sentence was read, 5 years in federal prison. As the bailiff approached with handcuffs, Nathan caught sight of Lily, Jack, and Martha in the gallery. Their faces were a mix of shock, pain, and something he couldn't quite identify. Was it respect? Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "Mr. Blackwell, did you really turn yourself in? What about your family? Is it true you've been living a double life?" Lily pushed through the crowd, shielding Jack from the cameras. Martha followed close behind, her eyes never leaving her son as he was led to a waiting police car. The next morning, newspapers across the country ran the story. "Corporate tycoon confesses all," the headlines screamed. Nathan's face was splashed across every news channel, his fall from grace dissected by eager commentators. In the quiet of their home, Lily and Jack tried to process the events of the past few days. "Why did he do it, Mom?" Jack asked, his voice small. "Why did he turn himself in?" Lily sighed, struggling to find the right words. I think he was trying to protect us in his own way." Jack nodded, his feelings a jumble of anger, confusion, and a grudging admiration. "Do you think we should visit him?" Lily paused, considering. "Let's give it some time," she said finally. "We all need to process this." Across town, Martha sat in her small apartment, old photo albums spread before her. She traced Nathan's young face in a faded picture, her heart heavy. "I should have been there for you," she whispered. "Maybe things would have been different." As the weeks passed, the impact of Nathan's confession rippled through the community. The shelter, initially rocked by the scandal, found itself flooded with support. People, moved by Nathan's attempt at redemption, donated in droves. Lily worked tirelessly to keep the shelter running smoothly, all while fielding constant questions about Nathan. She found herself defending him more often than not, surprising even herself. Jack threw himself into his studies, trying to make sense of his complicated feelings towards his father. He started volunteering at the shelter, finding solace in helping others. 3 months into Nathan's sentence, Lily and Jack made their first prison visit. The sight of Nathan in a jumpsuit, his face lined with new worry, hit them hard. "I'm so sorry," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion, "for everything." Lily nodded, unable to speak. Jack, after a moment's hesitation, reached out and squeezed his father's hand. As they left the prison that day, both Lily and Jack felt a shift. The anger and resentment were still there, but alongside them grew a seed of forgiveness. Martha visited Nathan regularly, their relationship growing stronger with each meeting. They talked about the past, about the choices that had led them here. Nathan began to understand the cycle of pain and poor decisions that had shaped his life. 6 months into his sentence, Nathan received surprising news. Due to his cooperation in bringing down larger corruption networks, his sentence was being reduced. He would be released in just a few more months. The news spread quickly. Some celebrated it as justice served, while others decried it as preferential treatment for the wealthy. For Nathan, it was a second chance he wasn't sure he deserved. As the day of his release approached, Nathan reflected on the path that had brought him here. The lies, the betrayals, the hurt he'd caused, but also the truth, the confession, the attempt at making things right. He thought of Lily and Jack, of the relationship he hoped to build with them. He thought of his mother and the years they'd lost. He thought of the community he'd both harmed and, inadvertently, helped. The night before his release, Nathan lay awake in his cell. Tomorrow he would step back into the world a changed man. The road ahead would be difficult, full of challenges and hard-earned trust. But for the first time in years, Nathan felt hope. Hope for redemption, for forgiveness, for a chance to be the man he should have been all along. As dawn broke on the day of his release, Nathan stood ready to face whatever came next. The price of redemption had been high, but as he prepared to walk out of the prison gates, he knew it had been worth it. The next chapter of his life was about to begin, and this time he was determined to write it the right way. Nathan stood at the entrance of the shelter, his heart pounding. It had been a month since his release, and this was his first day as a volunteer. He took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Inside, the atmosphere tensed as heads turned to look at him. Whispers filled the air. Nathan spotted Lily across the room, her expression unreadable. "Nathan," she said, approaching him. "Are you sure about this?" He nodded. "I need to make things right, Lily. Let me start here." Lily hesitated, then handed him a mop. "The kitchen needs cleaning." As Nathan worked, he felt the weight of suspicious glances. He understood their mistrust. He had a long way to go to prove himself. Weeks passed, and slowly the tension began to ease. Nathan threw himself into every task, no matter how menial. His dedication didn't go unnoticed. One evening, as he was leaving, an elderly resident stopped him. "You know, you're not what I expected," she said. Nathan smiled, feeling a small victory. At home, things were more complicated. Jack, now in college, struggled with his feelings towards Nathan. Their conversations were stilted, filled with awkward pauses. "I don't know how to do this, Dad," Jack admitted during one of their talks. "Neither do I," Nathan replied honestly. "But I'm willing to try if you are." Lily watched their attempts at reconnection with a mix of hope and wariness. Her own feelings towards Nathan were a tangled mess of old hurt and new understanding. One night, after a particularly tough day at the shelter, Lily found Nathan sitting alone in the kitchen. "Why are you really doing this, Nathan?" she asked. He looked up, his eyes tired but clear. "Because I finally understand what matters, Lily. It's not money or power. It's this. Family. Community. Making a difference." Lily nodded, feeling something shift between them. Martha became a regular presence in their lives, her gentle guidance helping to smooth rough edges. She and Nathan spent long hours talking, healing old wounds. "I'm so proud of you," she told him one day. "You're becoming the man I always knew you could be." As months passed, the shelter flourished. Nathan's business acumen, combined with Lily's compassion, turned it into a model of success. Other communities began reaching out, asking for advice on starting their own programs. Jack, inspired by the shelter's work, changed his major to social work. "I want to make a difference, like you guys," he told his parents. Nathan found himself busier than ever, but in a way that filled him with purpose. He worked tirelessly, not for profit, but for the smiles of those he helped. 1 year after Nathan's release, the family gathered for dinner. As they sat around the table, the atmosphere was different, warmer, more open. "I never thought we'd be here," Lily said, looking around at her family. "Neither did I," Nathan admitted, "but I'm grateful every day that we are." Jack raised his glass. "To new beginnings?" They all clinked glasses, the sound a promise of hope. Later that night, Nathan stood on the porch looking at the stars. Lily joined him, their shoulders just touching. "You've changed," she said softly. Nathan nodded. "I had to. I finally understand what you tried to tell me all those years ago. About what really matters." Lily turned to him, her eyes shining. "Better late than never, right?" Inside, Jack and Martha were laughing over old photos. The sound drifted out to Nathan and Lily, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. Nathan realized that this moment, this simple, quiet moment with his family, was worth more than all the wealth he'd ever possessed. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still hurts to heal, trust to rebuild. But standing there, surrounded by the love he'd nearly lost, Nathan knew they would face it together. As they went back inside, joining Jack and Martha, Nathan felt a peace he'd never known before. He had lost an empire of wealth, but gained a richness of spirit he never knew existed. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities, and for the first time in his life, Nathan was truly excited to see where it would lead. As the night wore on, filled with conversation and laughter, Nathan looked around at his family. Lily, her eyes sparkling as she told a story about the shelter. Jack, leaning in, engaged and passionate about his studies. Martha, her face serene, watching them all with love. This, Nathan realized, was true success. Not the numbers in a bank account or the size of a company, but the strength of bonds between people. The ability to make a difference in someone's life. As they said their goodnights, hugs lasting a little longer than usual, Nathan felt a surge of gratitude. He had been given a second chance, and he was determined not to waste it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to prove himself. But tonight, in this moment, Nathan was exactly where he needed to be. The man who had once valued only power and money now understood the true meaning of wealth. And as he closed his eyes that night, Nathan Blackwell was, for the first time in his life, truly rich. Did this story touch your heart? If so, don't forget to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think about Nathan's journey of redemption and family reconciliation. Have you ever experienced a similar transformation in your life? Let us know. And if you want more heartwarming stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Remember, it's never too late to change your path and discover what truly matters in life. Sometimes, the greatest wealth is found in the hearts of those around us.